If you're a CEO or business owner, I bet you've heard this today already. Hey, do you have a minute? And you know how it goes. 1 minute turns into 20, and then suddenly you're the bottleneck again. But what if your team could make smart decisions on their own, decisions that align with your vision and values without always coming to you first? In this video, I'm going to show you the decision system that lets your team run the business without you. I'm Dr. Shannon Irvin, and I help 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs scale using neuroscience backed systems that free up their time and grow their profit. And here's the truth. I've been where you are. I've been the bottleneck. I scaled to multi-millions in revenue, but I was still the only one answering every question, solving every fire, and making every decision. In fact, I got to the point where I was so burnt out, I was just looking forward to sleep, to quiet, to somebody not needing more of me. And it took me kind of to the edge. I always say the doctor in front of my name stands for desperate enough to go figure out how to break through this glass ceiling. And what I determined and learned is there's some neuroscience backed systems that helped me get all the way out of this burnout, constant interruptions, and me working in the business. So if you're nodding along right now, I want you to know it isn't because your team isn't capable. It's because they don't yet have your decision making framework. See, here's what happens. You hire smart people. They care. They want to do great work. But when faced with a decision, they're not sure which way to go. So they come to you. Tap, tap, tap. What do you think we should do about fill in the blank, right? The issue isn't intelligence, it's perspective. Decisions feel subjective. One person sees yes, another person sees no. And here's where the neuroscience comes in. See, your team's brains default to permission rather than risk being wrong. We're wired for survival, and we really want to please the people that we're working for. So rather than taking that big risk and getting it wrong, they look to you to seek for permission because they want to get it right. The problem is just a missing system. The good news, you can fix this. What your team needs isn't another checklist or SOP. They need a decision compass, a simple system that helps them filter every choice the way you would. When you give your team this compass, they'll make decisions that are as good or maybe even better than yours because they combine your framework with their in the trenches. Okay, here's the system. Every decision runs through 4 filters. The company case, does this move us toward our goals? Your team needs to know that North Star. If a choice doesn't push you closer to the business targets, it's a no. This is exactly what we did with Krista when she was caught in this having to do everything across all areas. Just she was the last touch, right? And what we did is in the 67-day year CE, we helped her take her thoughts through her decision making through this idea of the North Star. And she was able to give people a decision process that allowed them to feel like they were going to win and move the business forward. And that gave her speed towards scaling. Next is the customer case. Does this serve our mission and the people we're here to impact? This keeps decisions anchored in purpose. Here's the reality. If you're doing your business to serve other people, then hardwiring a system of delivery, which we do inside the 67-day year, so that the team knows exactly how to stay on purpose and delivering that world-class program through vision. This is how you hardwire vision and purpose into your team members so that they can make these decisions without you. I was thinking about one person specifically, Joe, who we worked with. He had a construction refacing, resurfacing business, and everyone always wanted him to make the final conversation with the clients until he started really anchoring in the purpose of what do we want for these clients and teaching his team how to do that as well. And then he never had to come to a final client meeting again. Hallelujah, right? Third is the culture case. Does this align with our values, how we've agreed to operate? Culture is how you behave when no one else is watching. It's the values. Every choice should reinforce that. Here's the thing. If your culture is really defined and talked about on a regular basis with your team, they can start internalizing and literally building neural pathways in their brain toward that culture. And so it almost becomes a filter to make decisions that align with the big vision, what we're going to do for our clients, and the culture. It really gives them that filter. I was thinking about Tammy, who her heart and her culture was that we serve people deeply. And she told me about a story where one of her team members was faced with a situation where the person felt like they didn't get deeply cared for because she had worked on this decision matrix that we teach inside the 67-day year. Her team member didn't skip a beat, had culture guiding the interaction with that person. And that client ended up staying for about 5 more years. So somebody would have been lost, but because her team had that culture lens, she was able to then not just bring them back in the fold, but then really over deliver. And that was all about the culture being downloaded to the team. Okay, the last is the capacity. The last one is our capacity, or let's call it the competitive case. Can we realistically win if we do this? Do we have the resources, the skills, the bandwidth? Are we spreading ourselves too thin? Knowing that we have one main focus, our brain really thrives on that. So when the team clearly knows the culture, the vision, all of those things, and they ask themselves, what is the one main thing we're great at? That helps them become great decision makers when somebody starts to pull you or your business outside of those secret sweet spots that your business is known for. And let's be honest, that's usually when we get the clients that we shouldn't take, right? Flexing and trying to make something work for someone. So being able to know that capacity question, what are we great at? What would stretch us too thin where we really couldn't deliver at that great level? These are all filters that your team can. So let's walk through an example. Say your team is debating, you launch a new offer. So the company case, will this move us toward our revenue goals, our profit goals? That's the first filter they go through. The customer case, does it serve the audience we're called to help? Right? So your team can do all of these. The third being the culture case, does it fit our values or would it break them? And then finally, the capacity case. Do we have the team, the resources to win with it? Or is it just a distraction? Now imagine your whole team using those filters. Run it through for all four, and suddenly the decision becomes clear for them. In fact, I completely get excited about talking about Carl because Carl had the same thing going on in his business. He was hitting that 8-figure mark, and the team was amazing, actually A players, and really wanted to do well. But they kept bringing the high stakes questions to Carl. And Carl reached out and said, like, how do I get them to stop that habit? And we worked through what we call our decision matrix that we teach inside 67-day Year CEO to our owners. And within 1 week, he stopped getting the questions. In fact, he reached out to me and he said, my leadership team left me voice messages. Here's the problem. Here are the solutions I thought of. Here's the solution I went through because of our culture, our capacity, all the things we talked about here. And we were running with it. They didn't even say, are you okay with that? They just said, we're running with it. And the funny thing Carl said is their decisions were actually better than what I would have done with it. Sometimes as owners, it's our baby. And sometimes we can't get as objective, but giving our team these filters to work through, Carl found out that the decisions were even better than the ones he could make. And within a couple months of that being implemented in his business, he popped to 8 figures. Pretty cool. Okay, here's how to implement this decision system. Here's how we roll this out with your team. Build the compass, write out the goals, the purpose, the values, the anchors in one simple document. Don't overcomplicate this. Teach it. Walk your leadership team through it. Give them real scenarios to practice with you, pitch and catch style, and then require it. Anytime they bring to you a question, ask, did you run this through the decision compass? So you refine it, you review it quarterly, you update your goals and capacities as they change. What's happening behind the scenes for you and for your team is you're building neural pathways toward high-level A+ player leadership. It's really hardwiring the decisions for scaling, not just you, but your entire team. This is where it gets magical, where the team can drive outcomes and revenue without you because they have a compass to go through. When your team has this system, we get to stop being the bottleneck. You're not dragged into every decision. Instead, you've trained your team to think like owners. entrepreneurs, right? And I know what it's like to finally have a team that can run the business without you, not because you've checked out, but because you've built leaders who are hardwired and fully equipped to carry the vision. If you want help creating your own decision compass and hardwiring it into your leadership team, I would love to map it out with you in a free systems to scale call. The link is there in the description. So the next time you hear, do you have a minute? Imagine saying, you don't need me. You've got the compass. You've got this. That's the power of the decision system. That's the one that lets your team run the business without you. All right, I'll see you in the next video.